Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, it is time for everyone's favourite feature here on the Red Archer Live channel, breaking down Starbreeze finances and talking about why things may not be going as well as they should be. As always, this is me talking through Starbreeze's latest updates and posts, this one being the Q4 financial report, so their earnings between October and December of last year, 2024, as well as just some general comments from the Acting CEO Mats Juhl, as well as a few other bits you can see, no doubt, in the tabs at the top of my video. Doing a bit of a catch-up. We're talking through the year-end report, we're going to go through a Q&A that was held with the report, as well as covering a couple of articles from 80 Level, who, if you may remember, I cited in my video quitting the Starbreeze partnership. I didn't actually go through the articles, I was going to in a video, and after recording it, that was the point where I realised, maybe now's the time to walk away from the partnership. And so I did. Now, I will say, I know obviously I led with quite a tongue-in-cheek introduction there. As I've always said, I just want to really point out what I think are the failings of Starbreeze's executive decisions. I'm looking out for the developers and trying to point out the way that the fans are feeling about the franchise and try and make that clear to the people higher up. I don't think it's worth it. I think that gif of the guy talking to a brick wall is probably the same effect that my videos have, especially now I'm no longer a partner. But screw it if I don't want to try. I want to try and look out for us, the devs, as much as I can, and also try and be some kind of voice for Payday fans, even if not everyone agrees, which I've said already. It's just me putting my thoughts out there, and usually I feel like you guys and me are fairly well connected, so let's see what we've got today and go through it all. So, the Q4 year-end report is here, as I said, and these things are very in-depth. They talk a lot about financial decisions, and there's a lot of financial reports. If we scroll down, there's loads of tables of finances and things that I just don't understand. However, I've begun to get a bit of an understanding of some of the opening bits of the finance pages, so we will be comparing those ever so slightly later on, but I do just want to start by looking at the overview. So first off, it talks about the net sales amounted in the fourth quarter. So this is, as I said, between October and December. I know obviously it says this is the year-end report, January to December, but this is just talking about the final quarter. It's kind of an overlap between the fourth quarter and full year report, but there will be a full annual report for 2024, presumably sometime in April. Looks like it's around middle of April when that will come, so whenever that drops, we'll obviously talk about it. But as you can see, Payday 2 and Payday 3 sales are now almost neck and neck, which is just incredibly concerning. I mean, if nothing else, Payday 2 accounted for 10.3 million Swedish krona, whereas Payday 3 accounted for 14.7 million Swedish krona in sales. In the Q3 report, which I'm going to pull up here, I'm pretty sure it was nowhere near that bad. Payday 2 was only half the amount. In fact, actually, it's Payday 3 sales that have dropped. Payday 2s have gone down slightly from 11.5 million to 10.3 million, but Payday 3s have gone down from 22.9 million to 14.7 million. Interest in Payday 3 is flatlining, at least from the sales perspective, and that won't be helped by PS Plus. I mean, PS Plus will hopefully increase player engagement and get more people trying the game, but it doesn't exactly drive sales unless people playing on that platform decide to buy DLC. And they are operating still at a loss before and after tax, you can see. So minus 49 million Swedish krona loss. The way these charts work is it says Swedish krona. I don't know what E actually means. It's probably not European, but Swedish krona, and then it's K. So everything in here is multiplied by 1,000. So something that's 1,000 in here is actually 1,000,000. So just bear that in mind with these particular charts. The main thing I want to do is go over Mats Juhl's message, because last time we did this, as you know, he was like, so by the way, Payday 3 is our top priority, but as a top priority, we're going to gut all the funding, gut the staff. We'll still deliver the same amount of content we did in year one, but we can just do it with a lot less money and a lot less staff. As a lot of us know, that was delusional. I don't know why he said that, and that's not even to be mean to the guy. I know a lot of people don't look at him fondly, but just as a decision level, really baffling and very, very stupid. This time, thankfully, he's not sending in quite that bad, but there are a few comments in here that I think are just worth pointing out and talking about the overall situation of Starbreeze. So it's going to be a little bit of reading. Sit with me, but we're going to go through this, and everything's chat to market anyway, so if you don't want to listen to me deciphering what he's saying, you can just skip ahead, feel free. During the fourth quarter, we continue to work on developing and strengthening the most important brands we work on. Payday is and remains the basis of our strategy, operations, and our most important asset. That bit, I believe, because it seems like Starbreeze or Mats or whoever's making the decisions will do anything possible to do things with Payday, but not touch Payday 3. It feels like the main thing they should address, they don't. Not like that's the main thing and the only reason the company's still around. No, not at all. You wouldn't think anyone in the studio knows that at this point, at least not in the executive department. Together with our Dungeons & Dragons Project Baxter, third-party publishing, and our licensing and franchising business, we continue to deliver on our strategy to diversify our business, optimally utilize resources, capitalize on the strength of our own brand, and not least to broaden our target groups and increase our reach. And so here we go, breaking down the key things that happened. In this quarter, we announced our collaboration with Krafton to take Payday to the ever-popular global hit PUBG Battlegrounds. Is global even still true? We talked about this when this was first announced. It's a big market in Asia, but I don't think there's much of a market outside of that, so that could be pushing it. But I suppose if there's a couple of players in America and a couple in Europe and then a bunch in Asia, you could call it global if you really wanted to stretch definitions. We also launched the new content for Payday 3, revealed our blockbuster RoboQuest coming to PlayStation in the first half of the year, and relaunched the Roblox game Notoriety as an officially licensed Payday experience, because yes, he goes to great depth to talk about that, but I'll talk about why I think that's a little bit of a cop-out in a little bit. During the fourth quarter, we generated revenue from a number of sources: sales of Payday 3 and associated content packages, continued stable demand for Payday 2, third-party publishing where RoboQuest continues to contribute strongly to turnover, and the first revenues from our work for hire deal, this PUBG thing. A project that started on a smaller scale, growing to full production in the first quarter of 2025. Compared to the same quarter last year, we have more balanced and broader revenue mix, which lowers our risk profile and contributes to a more stable basis for growth going forward. We will compare the finances later between the two quarters. Payday 3, close to the anniversary of its launch, a major update was released with new and requested functionality, including a server browser, VoIP, and a new user interface. Of course, it doesn't mention how much of a botched launch the update was, because this is for investors. This is the thing you gotta remember. He's presenting this to investors to say, look how shiny and sparkly our company is. Any issues? They don't exist. Brushed under the carpet. You don't care about those. You care about giving us your money. So let me tell you why you should give us our money. That's the vibe going in here. So, it's not designed for consumers to see, as he quickly found out when we all actually were looking at the last report, but they're still worded with investors in mind. In December, this was followed by another heist for all players, this time Payday Classic First World Bank. At the time of rating, Payday 3 is one of the games of the month on PlayStation Plus, meaning that during February it will be available to anyone with a Plus subscription to download and play. The collaboration with PlayStation will contribute positively to Payday's revenue in the first quarter of 2025, but most of all is an incredible opportunity to let millions of people try Payday 3 as it is today, after 1.5 years of hard work to improve the game both functionally and content-wise. All of that, very, very true. There's definitely a point you can make about PlayStation Plus being a scheme that tends to put the spotlight on games that aren't very popular, so the fact that Payday 3's ended up being picked for that kind of speaks volumes maybe about its performance on console at the minute, but look, if it works, I'll take it. I'll take whatever positives we can get out of this game, so if it ends up being a net positive, who cares how it happened, honestly. Next up, collaborations and brand extensions. During the quarter, Payday as a brand strengthened its presence and visibility in other channels and took steps towards new game environments. Through a work for hire to bring Payday to PUBG, we have a unique opportunity to introduce Payday as a brand and experience to a wider global audience. PUBG is one of the few evergreen or ever popular gaming platforms in the world, and having the opportunity to create something that attracts both Payday and PUBG fans is an incredibly inspiring opportunity. This sentence rubs me up the wrong way a little bit, and I don't think anyone can blame me for it, but if I need to explain why, allow me to very briefly. He's arguing that this is a deal that will attract both Payday and PUBG fans. Allow me to count on my hands how many Payday fans I've seen excited about the PUBG deal. Oh no fingers in my hands are coming up, guys. Maybe what? No. No one that I've seen in the Payday franchise cares about this. There probably are people out there not in my audience. Fair. I'm not saying zero people care, but that is a little bit tone deaf to say that both of the audiences care. Again, probably just wording to make investors happy, because I ain't seen anyone happy about that who hasn't at the very least been confused as to why the hell they've done it, or for my camp, why they chose PUBG and not Fortnite. I still stand by, especially considering they worked previously with putting Payday 2 on the Epic Online services and presumably getting a big bag of cash from Epic for doing it. Who knows why, but that's the main presumption. I've got no evidence for that, but call it a gut instinct. They've worked with Epic before, so I don't know why they wouldn't do it for Fortnite. I think as long as they could sell something in Fortnite and they could attract it as a Payday crossover, not a Payday 3 one, I don't see why it wouldn't work. That's just me personally, but whatever. During the quarter, the popular Roblox game Notoriety was relaunched under the official Payday banner. The game has built up a large audience over many years, and the developer Evan Pickett of Moonstone Games has done a fantastic job of translating the soul of Payday to a brand new platform. Very true. Although, again, being a bit general, because this is the soul of Payday 2. Now, granted, Notoriety I've played on stream, not quite for me, mainly because I'm not really a big Roblox guy, and if I wanted to play something like Payday 2, I'd just play Payday 2. But that's just me. Not to discredit his work at all, it's been incredibly popular, and I say all the love and congrats to those people who worked on that. But it is a fair statement to say that that is because it's Payday 2 adjacent rather than Payday 3 that people are quite interested in that. So he's using it as a full Payday IP thing, because of course he is, but it really doesn't have anything to do with Payday 3. Because again, anything to do with Payday 3, it's like a vampire at your door. If you don't let him in, he's not going to come in, and no one's going to mention Payday 3, so he's not going to come into the Payday 3 house. Either way, though, through our presence on one of the world's largest gaming platforms, we also reach a completely new and younger audience that is schooled into the Payday experience. This is a good way, I think, to get people into Payday, a much more sensible one than the PUBG deal. I definitely think so. Our philosophy is to continue to increase the reach and relevance of the brand through collaborations and creative partnerships combined with our own titles. Next up, Project Baxter, Dungeons & Dragons. Significant progress was made with Project Baxter during the quarter, and the team has ongoing playtests to fine-tune and iterate on all the gameplay experience, all to create both a unique to Dungeons & Dragons and cooperative experience that puts player actions at the centre. During and after the quarter, we have ongoing in-depth conversations and game tests with potential partners to maximise the project's commercial potential, and the response has been positive. Doesn't really say much about learnings from Payday 3. Mats Juhl claimed in a presentation previously that he learned from Payday 3's mistakes, but, I mean, he's not really fixed everything, or the Starbreeze not really fixed everything that was wrong with Payday 3 to begin with. Where's offline mode? I mean, they did their first live event with Mask Mania. The masks still haven't been added. How often are updates going to be coming now? What's the staff level like? The budget level like? I mean, there's no evidence that this game is going to do better than Payday 3 if you don't lead by example and show that you have learned from your mistakes. And I don't believe they have. I'm not completely bought by all of this stuff. There maybe are developers in that studio who care about making this game. I don't want to doubt that, because the developers are all lovely people, and I've said this already. I've been there a couple of times. I've spoken to them. They care about the games they make. But I do still think Project Baxter it's just a bit of a pipe dream. It's a pipe dream that I just don't think is going to work. I'd love to be proven wrong, but either way. There's some mention about third-party publishing. I don't need to talk about this, but organisation is the next bit. Our organisation continues to develop and will change in step with our projects. We will continue to hire specific expertise for our projects going forward, but at the same time, like many of our industry colleagues, we are forced to adapt the organisation to market realities and ensure that every kroner is spent on the right thing, game development. So where's the funding for Payday 3? Good question. Very good question. Love an answer for that. The net change in the number of employees is single digits so far, but we have chosen to reduce the ambition for our own marketing department and implemented a skill shift in certain roles to strengthen the development organisation. I mean, what do you mean by this? We have chosen to reduce the ambition for our own marketing department, so basically their marketing staff are either being gutted or are being moved to something else to strengthen development. What that no doubt means is they're probably going to have help with publishing again in the future, like the plan deal with Payday 3, because they can't publish if they don't have a marketing department, surely. They can't effectively publish at the very least. During the first quarter of 2025, we'll move the head office in Stockholm to new premises that are better adapted to our operations and provides a fantastic opportunity to strengthen our culture and collaboration internally. At the end of the quarter, the number of employees amounted to 189. Now, first interesting point of call, because if we look at the Q3 report for 2024, I keep scrolling up in this really, and I should just keep it at a certain point, but the number of employees should be listed somewhere on this document, and I'm struggling to find it. There it is, 191. Whereas now, the number of employees is listed as 189, an employee change of 2. This is within November and December of 2024, 2 months which were reported either officially through Starbreeze or unofficially through 80 level, and through things which, as I've said, while seem incredibly likely to have happened, are still technically unproven by Starbreeze themselves, so take them all with a grain of salt, no matter how realistic they feel. I mean, let's face it, you know why I quit the partnership, because a lot of the stuff coming out of the layoffs felt incredibly in character with what Starbreeze are doing, whether it was accurate or not. It felt close enough to me to make a decision. Future Troy cutting in here as I'm editing to fix some numbers that I inaccurately compared as I was going through the edit here. I was comparing the number of staff between Q3 of 2024 and Q4 of 2024. You can see both of the numbers on screen now, an overall decrease of only 2 employees. Now, my point was going to be, look at the number of men and women as staff members in Starbreeze between these windows, and if the number of men and women has changed more dramatically than the overall number of staff, that's proof that more layoffs have happened. However, as you can actually see, the only change has been men decreasing by 2, suggesting that 2 men have been laid off during Q4 of 2024. Now, my first bit of doubt to this is we already have an actual statement from Starbreeze in December, which, not counting the numerous articles and reports we've been seeing coming through that suggest more layoffs are going on at Starbreeze than we actually know, because as always, take those with a grain of salt, even if they seem extraordinarily likely. The actual quote we got from Starbreeze quoted less than 10 positions in total had been let go in their layoffs. Now, I don't know about you, but if I wanted to make things sound better, I would say only 2 positions have been let up, because only 2 sounds much better than fewer than 10. So my personal opinion is, even though the overall amount has only changed by 2 according to this report, it could well be that certain people were laid off, but the same gender was hired to make the numbers back up. Could be Starbreeze are intentionally trying to keep the levels the same so you don't notice it. It could just be a coincidence, or I could be making something out of nothing here, but I'm simply encouraging you to look a bit deeper, because sometimes we do need to do that, and it's worth keeping an eye on these things. Don't be mistaken, layoffs have definitely happened, and even if they're not really talking much about it, they're still clearly going on in the background. How much they're happening is anyone's guess, because as I said, these things are to be fully proven by Starbreeze if they ever are acknowledged, but keep it in mind, just because the overall number has changed doesn't mean that layoffs haven't happened. Either way, they close the words by saying 24 has been an intense but in many ways successful year for Starbreeze. We have continued to strengthen the Payday brand through collaborations and enhancements while making great progress with Project Baxter and establishing a strong foundation for our third-party publishing. With a balanced risk profile, strong cash projection, and several ongoing projects approaching important milestones, we look forward to 2025 with a vision to be a leading multi-title studio, being more realistic than ever, and we are well positioned to continue building value for our players and owners. I think you'd do really good at building value for your players if you actually did what the players are asking, so don't even insult my intelligence by saying you're trying to build value for both of us, because the players are telling you one thing and you're doing another. Again, nothing against Mats as a person, but all the decisions, some of the wording here really rubs me up the wrong way. I know this is to appeal to investors, I know it's to be like, look how shiny we are, but stuff like that really annoys me. When the entire community is trying to tell you that what you're doing is wrong and we really want you to do something to support the players, the people who have supported Starbreeze through far too many controversies than probably Starbreeze deserved to have come back from, if we're being completely objective here, then to say a statement like that when we're still waiting for things that were promised in Operation Medic Bag, like offline mode, it just strikes me as completely out of touch with the players. And you'll remember, if you're a long-time fan of this channel, that one of the big things I credited Overkill and Starbreeze 4 years ago was having that conversation with the community. While it's still there in some ways, it just isn't what it used to be, and it feels like Starbreeze just do their own thing now and don't really care what we think about it. You know, if the money talks, they don't care. And if the money doesn't talk, they also don't seem to care. So what can you do? I really don't know. I'll be intrigued to see if there's a bit of a change with Q1 of 2025. You obviously won't find out about that for 3 months, but let's just pull up to the finances, because I just want to point this out a little bit and talk a little bit about it. Only the introductory section though, because like I said, I ain't no finance expert, and I don't want to sit here and pretend like I know what's going on if I actually have no clue. Let's do some comparing, shall we? Now, these are the figures between our current quarter, Q4 2024, last quarter, Q3 2024, and Q4 2023. So we're comparing with last quarter and last year. Please bear that in mind. Gross profit, or loss, for the year, for the quarter, sorry, minus 34 million Swedish krona, about $3 million. You can see roughly the conversion rate between krona and US dollars is roughly divided by 13, kind of the same with GBP. So roughly divide by 13, and you get regions of USD and GBP for these reports. So 34 million krona, 3 million US dollars loss. Operating loss after having all the marketing costs, administrative expenses, other revenue, we're now at minus 50 million Swedish krona in loss. And then we've got taxes, so we get some financial income, but also financial expenses, so it improves it slightly. But then you got income tax, which makes it even worse. So you've now got a net profit loss for the period of 49 million, Swedish krona. Compared to last quarter, that's actually not as bad, because you look and the profit is a little bit better. Well, the loss, sorry, is a bit better, because in Q3 of 2024, they lost 58 million Swedish krona. And you can look and compare the two and see that actually the direct costs are about the same between quarters, 80,000 here, 80,000 here, but they made slightly more net sales, about 4 million krona there. So I said 1,000 a minute ago, didn't I? It's easy to get these things confused. So we're seeing a similar pattern, maybe slightly better than the last quarter. But if we compare Q4 to Q3, you can actually see Starbreeze are also doing slightly better there in some ways, but not in others, because you can see that they put a lot more into administrative expense and marketing costs back then, so they were operating a much greater loss. So you can see that the effects of wearing down on Payday 3's marketing has helped them greatly, because they were a lot more of a loss when they were trying to market Payday 3 and weren't getting much back for it. So this plays back to the wider argument that I talked about when this statement was made a few months ago, saying, you know, we're not making a profit in Payday 3, we're sinking money into this game and we're not getting much back, so we're pulling money from it. As I said back then, and I stand by now, as a financial decision, I do get it. I understand why, as a business person, you would look and see, we're sinking money into this project and we're not getting anything out of it. It's sunk cost fallacy. What's the point of putting money into it? Let's not. But the problem is, your hope in trying to save that is a D&D game which doesn't really overlap very well with your core audience, and you're hoping for a player base that may well not exist. Even if financially it doesn't make sense to keep sinking money into Payday 3, it is technically the best thing you can do. That is the IP that your company's always had no matter what's happened, and you could put the effort in and make all hands on deck to fix it. Unfortunately though, Starbreeze ain't going to do that, and so how the company fares over the next year or two is going to be very interesting. I don't want them to go under. I don't want any dev to lose their jobs any more than seemingly already has happened, whether you trust articles or official news or whatever it may be. I just want the studio to do well, and I feel like I'm just staring at it, course correcting something that really in the long term may have been the better call. At the very least, you can see they're still losing money, maybe not in as bad bad of a situation as they could be. It's not getting worse per se in Q4, but overall, I just don't know what the future holds for this company. It's very uncertain. You know, Mats has made a lot of statements talking about the good things that happened in the last year, but some of these things just don't impact them as much as they'd like. You know, if the Payday Roblox mode notoriety does well, maybe they get some sales off that, fine. You know, they talk a bit about Payday 2 doing well, but Payday 3 hitting PS Plus, who knows how well that will translate to sales, but adding things like First World Bank, you only have to look at the Steam player counts to see that didn't really shift the needle. There is an inherent problem in making Payday 3 appealing to players, and they're still not managing that, and if you can't honour the promises you've made, you're never gonna honour that. So there's a whole thing we can talk about here, but that is all my overall thoughts. I've been going for ages in this video already, and I don't frankly want to keep going much longer on this, so that's just me talking about my overall thoughts on the Q4 report and everything going on there. There was also a Q&A for the year-end report. I just want to go over very briefly that Mage on Reddit has reported and summed up for us, so thank you very much, Mage, for that. So here are the key points from that report, the Q&A that happened at the end of it, which is a webcast. You can actually watch it yourself if you want to. I will link this page in the description. You just have to go to the webcast button, click that, and you'll be able to listen to the Q&A. But he says the following things. Project Baxter was supposed to be shown, or I guess it was not supposed to be shown until 2025. Oh, it was supposed to be shown in 2025, was postponed. The development is going well, but they decided to be safe with investors and partners. Okay, that one doesn't make too much sense, but yeah, basically they postponed. They want to try and make the game look better. Does that mean it's not doing as well as they'd hope? Who knows? Payday 3 is not planned to be free at any point yet, but they are increasing the player base with discounts and PlayStation Plus, okay? Starbreeze does not plan to do any single projects yet, only co-op. Well, at least they know they're good in that regard. There is no news about the movie or TV series for Payday, which is incredibly ironic and brings up something small I wouldn't mind bringing up just here real quick, which is a tweet from the Payday game Twitter account. Payday tweeted at Secret Level, a series on Prime Video that does an episode per video game, asking for a Payday episode, and I mean, you can see my reply underneath. The wording of this, while this animation is cool, I really do like it, and I'm assuming it was done by Little Guy G. I might be wrong, but that dude is doing some really good theatrical stuff inside of Starbreeze right now. It's a cool cutscene, but the wording just makes me think, so that live action show you said was happening, is that actually gonna happen? I know this is animation, but if there was anything happening with an adaptation, surely it'd be the one they announced 2 or 3 years ago. So I honestly think it's safe to assume the movie TV series is dead in the water and they ain't got the interest or funding to make it happen. But of course, announcing that would not do the company any good, so they just keep it on the down low. I've said it already. There was a Life is Strange adaptation that was announced 8 or 9 years ago, but it's had a couple of updates every now and again, but nothing's really come of it. It's never been announced to be cancelled, but it's never actually gone anywhere, and I see Payday going the same way as that personally. Quarter 4 players receive more free content than paid content, so in quarter 1 of 2025, Starbreeze wants to increase the amount of paid content, but free content will also be coming out. This is interesting because where else is paid content going to come out, Starbreeze? Quarter 1 is January to March. You released one DLC, about the same as last quarter with Fear and Greed, technically. So are you going to release another paid DLC in March? Or is that just saying you want to make more money but aren't going to do it? The number of players on the PS5 has increased significantly if you look at the numbers in the last quarter. I'm not surprised by that, fair enough. PS Plus has given a good influx of audience into the game. Are they going to be lasting audience members, though? Who knows? Starbreeze Sweden has changed its office but is located in Stockholm in the city centre. Moving to a new office in the future will help reduce costs, so seemingly a smaller office, which is a shame. That office they had was really good and it allowed to have a lot of space for, you know, people to work in and to do things like the dev diaries, etc. It's a cool place, so hopefully the new one isn't just a really tight office space. A permanent CEO of Starbreeze has not yet been appointed, and the next report for quarter 1 2025 will come out on May 13th. But as I've said, it seems likely we'll get the 2024 annual report before that in April. So that's the Q&A from that. So that's everything in the financial report for Starbreeze for Q4 2024. I just want to finish off by talking about, as I said, some of the layoff stuff. There are 2 new articles from 80 Level, one which talks about the French rumours that I'm going to talk about here, and one which breaks down some figures on the report. I don't think I need to really report about this too much. They make some actually very similar points to I just made about the staff now that I think about it. I hadn't actually clocked that in my brain when I was saying it, but they've talked about some very key things here and reported some stuff. You can go read it if you want to, but this is the article that I want to focus on, because they talk a little bit about French strikes going on at the minute. There was a French strike, a one-day strike last week from a whole series of developers, Ubisoft, Don't Nod, Starbreeze, whole load of companies. Starbreeze was just a tiny portion of that strike, but it was a bunch of people going on strike to do with job losses, cuts, things like that, and working with the French Union for Gaming, whole thing around that. But 80 Level will remind everyone of what's been going on recently with the layoffs, and as I've said, linked these things before, but as a quick recap if you want it, or if you haven't read the articles, the TLDR in their previous articles was a former Starbreeze dev told the site that the studio had been quietly laying off employees over a 3-month period without making it public, something they were able to confirm, and claims that Starbreeze's Paris office was on the verge of closure, a point they couldn't verify one way or another. Now remember, even if they've confirmed these things, it's all take with a grain of salt, because even though it seems incredibly likely and probably is what happened, you got to bear in mind that there is a chance here that it hasn't worked out in a certain way and things aren't being written in the correct way. If Starbreeze talk about it, we know for sure, but that involves them actually discussing the things going on in their studio that aren't shiny investor, and they don't do that. They're Starbreeze. Communication is not their strong suit. And if they can't talk about something, if they can avoid it, they go, I pretend I do not see. It's been happening for years. I'm not surprised at this point. Over the weekend, a current Starbreeze dev who wished to remain anonymous reached out to us with additional details about the situation and if their account is accurate. So again, if. Take this all with a grain of salt. If. It's probably very in line with what we've been hearing recently, so, take it with as much of a grain of salt as you wish, but I need to make that clear that this is not completely confirmed. If the account is accurate, the studio's French branch is indeed about to shut down, and even more interestingly, the information shared by the dev paints a picture of a growing rift between Starbreeze's developers and management, with the former reportedly having lost all trust in the latter. There was this one-day strike on February 13th to protest layoffs and exhausting working conditions. According to the Insider, nearly the entire Starbreeze Paris team took part in the strike, as the core issues resonated with them due to the studio's impending closure, which would leave all employees either jobless or forced to relocate to Sweden. Very much reinforcing this new office that cuts costs in Sweden. They want everyone in the one place because they can't afford seemingly to have staff in other places. There was a video here they shared, which I will cut the audio off here, but it's a video about the strike. Someone here from Don't Nod talking, so budge people, but I just find it very telling. The thumbnail was Dallas's mask. Not great. Now we need to go through the quotes. There are some very big quotes here I'm going to read through and just give my overall thoughts on, so let's go through each one of them. This is a lengthy message that was allegedly posted in Starbreeze's internal chat by one of the French employees, stating that the studio intends to terminate 23 more people, around 12% of its total workforce, in addition to the 13 to 16% mentioned in AC Level's January investigation, and the only reason this hasn't happened yet is due to the strictness of French labour law on the matter of layoffs. So if this is true, they would have already been laid off completely had French labour law not got in the way. Here's the message that was shared in Starbreeze's chat that was provided to them by the Insider. Again, this could be fabricated, but let's face it, it's fairly likely that this is accurate. We'd like to set the record straight. In previous town halls and Q&A answers, it was stated there was some ongoing negotiation with French employee representatives about the future of the French entity. There was not. The negotiation that took place is simply a legal requirement for the CEO to sit down with the French employee reps and try and justify firing 23 people. Emphasis on try to. We were never consulted about whether or not the entity should be closed, but only presented and consulted about how and when, because that is what's imposed by the legal procedures. So they're only doing what they absolutely have to do and not doing anything else. We want to point out the purely economical reasoning behind the decision. While removing senior employees and replacing them with less experienced and less expensive workers may cut costs, it's short-sighted. The French tech team played a crucial role in the timely release of Payday 3 on consoles, reducing bugs and optimizing server costs by a factor of 5. These are key people at Starbreeze that they're just trying to lay off. They next want to point out the poor vision behind the layoffs. A post-mortem of Payday 3 has been done, highlighting the failures in the organisation of our work. From our point of view, not only have we not seen any big improvement on this aspect, we are now facing the fact that management seems totally unable to measure the work that is actually done by the teams. We also want to point out the lack of consideration for the work achieved by employees. Seems management has totally forgotten how most of the French team stayed and took an active part into successful reconstruction, forgot how it went when Payday 3 was released and how many French employees worked their asses off to be able to go through certification, fix bugs, reduce server consumption, correct mistakes, so that all of it could reach a decent performance. Forgotten also the 2 French engineers that crunched to port Payday 2's engine on Epic Online services in a very short time and brought a very welcome financial income from Epic. Granted, I've only read some of this, I'm reading it fully now for the video, so that backs what I said earlier about it being a big bag of money to get Payday 2 on Epic. We want to point out the lightness of the decision. From the answers we've had, it doesn't seem Starbreeze is in such a bad cash flow position that would justify laying off 23 employees at once, but there it is. During a crisis in which finding a new job is especially difficult, we are facing potential career disruptions without any apparent effort from management to explore alternatives to this layoff. The French team is hurt, morale is low, but we will keep fighting for our rights until the last day. This was followed up, apparently, with a statement of Matt's own, the acting CEO, in that channel, and talked a bit about it, but also requested that the topic not be discussed in Crew, which is apparently an open channel in Starbreeze's Slack. It's like a business version of Discord. And let's just read it. We acknowledge the ongoing strike in France and fully respect the rights of the French employees and industry. However, we want to emphasise discussions regarding the French entity should take place through the proper channels and not in Crew. I'm just going to come around and say it. Should this be accurate, I really do not think it is entirely respectful for the first thing you say in response to a statement like this to be, you put this in the wrong channel. Put it in a channel where not as many crew members see it. We don't want you all to see it. Put it in a proper channel. Maybe some people will miss it. That just shows that you're very clearly trying to hide things, which, again, like these previous reports, if they are true, I've got to keep saying if because you just don't know, but it seems fairly likely. If all this is true, it is clear Starbreeze are trying to keep things under the rug. So this just further suits that current behaviour. We want to be absolutely clear that all processes with employee representatives have been conducted in full compliance not only with French labour law, but also in accordance with the priorities and choices of the CSE union reps in France, including extra time to answer additional questions and hold discussions. We've engaged in these discussions in good faith, assuring transparency and adherence to every legal and procedural obligation. Everything we're hearing previously doesn't seem to match up with that, so I don't know if I trust that. While the post above does not reflect our view of the discussion's position and priorities of the discussions held during many hours, we will not discuss this further in open channels. I wonder why. We also recognise and respect the role of unions and their representatives in our French entity, and we remain committed to honouring all agreements and obligations in this process. There'll be an invite to a town hall tomorrow, already in planning to present the current situation and the way. What, are you the Mandalorian? But either way, that's all of Matt's statement. There is a tiny bit more that's interesting after this that I do want to mention though. They do note that apparently there was a 7-page document shared with AT Level by the anonymous dev containing the team's questions for Mats Juhl, most of which he apparently, quote, refused to answer or ducked. I will point out that when he did the live stream with Almir a few months ago, when I reported on this very channel, it took me asking about 10 to 15 times in the Twitch live chat for them to actually acknowledge that any layoffs were happening whatsoever, and had I not done that, I genuinely don't think they'd have talked about it. That's not to big up me, that's just to point out that it does seem very in character for key questions to just get ignored and for him to pick and choose the ones that make them look the best. It's just typical business work. It's not a surprise to me, but that is what's going on here, seemingly. But if real, the list of questions confirms not only the upcoming closure of the French division, but also reveals the tech team from France was largely responsible for patches and DLCs in Starbreeze games, raising concerns about the future of Payday titles. How can you release upcoming Payday 3 content if you haven't got key people who test these things to put it out the door? Let's be honest here, while I give all the love in the world to developers and I want the best for all of them, it's not unfair to them to say that when a lot of these updates have been launching, they've not been to the best quality they could have been. There have been bugs, there have been missing parts and features like a push to talk for VoIP. There's been a problem with every single update, big or small. If you're telling me that the key members of staff in France helped try and reduce that and now they're going to be gone, goodness knows what a future Payday 3 update's going to look like. Let's be serious here. We've got to be honest. Even if it sounds doom posty, you've got to look at things as an objective, balanced person. And looking at that objectively, that is concerning. As they said, one dev summarised it perfectly in their question: how can Starbreeze survive when we could barely survive when our French colleagues are on vacation? They're going to be on a permanent vacation if Mats Juhl gets his way from the look of it. There are more things here that just overall talk about people worrying about Project Baxter not working and how that might cause the studio to collapse. There's just a general lack of trust in Starbreeze. As they say at the bottom though, and I want to reinforce this one more time, that said, they'd like to emphasize at this point the authenticity of the insider's report cannot be definitively 100% confirmed, as there is still a chance, albeit small given the amount of information provided, that the 2 screenshots of the Slack chat, the 7-page document, and the Starbreeze's all-hands meeting presentation from January 10th sent to us could have all been fabricated. Tomorrow the report will reveal more. Well, it didn't, and I'm not surprised it didn't, because these French layoffs are happening in Q1 2025, and this report is Q4 2024. So the employee figures are going to be very interesting, but I wonder if Starbreeze are scrambling to hire more people in Sweden for cheaper rates, so that when you look at the number of employees in the next quarter, it doesn't look like 22, 23 people have been lost. I'm very intrigued to see that. But as always, make sure that you check the number of male and female staff members. That's often a good giveaway as to more things happening behind the scenes. So there you go, everyone. That's a lot of stuff to talk about. It's quite a big catch-up video. I maybe should have done these in 2 separate videos, but I wanted to just talk about it all in one thing because I really want to talk about offline mode. It's something Almir actually mentioned on his stream today. He talked about a couple of bits here. He even said that he wants rid of Edge Grit and Rush. Don't we all, fella? Or at least most of us. There's an answer from Almir about Almir mode. Imagine Almir mode. There's an answer from Almir last week about offline mode. My own thoughts on that and the potential likelihood of it coming that I do want to do in its own video, so stay tuned for that. I may well do a post asking you to give me your thoughts on whether it's coming, so keep an eye on the community tab, or the post tab as it's now called for that. I just wanted to go over the report, give my thoughts on Mats's comments and overall Starbreeze's current financial situation. So in conclusion, things are not looking good behind the scenes if these things are true, which it seems fairly likely that they are. And I think if there's one thing I'm learning more about this current management in Starbreeze than ever before, it's that they don't really care to communicate the honest facts with the players because they don't think we need to know them, or they think that they actually think it's going well, or they just completely ignore what we're saying, or don't realise we're complaining. Maybe we are talking to a brick wall and they've got some really good headphones on that just don't have any sound coming in. They go, this decision, it's great for the players. They will love it. Do we need to listen to what they think? Not at all. Focus groups, we don't care. Public consensus doesn't matter. We're Starbreeze and we're right. That's how it comes across. Whether it's intentional or not, as I'm saying in these videos, I'm trying to make the executives aware of how they're appearing. This is how you're appearing. I am saying a lot of things a lot of people are already saying. Either other content creators, my comment section, the Payday Reddit, all the stuff I'm saying, or most of it at the very least, is not new. But I like to reinforce it because I like to make it clear that trust in Starbreeze is at a rock bottom. And if all this stuff really is true behind the scenes, I don't think the devs trust Starbreeze, let alone us. That executive management team just do not seem to get what's right for this studio and right for the franchise. That's the only reason they exist. And it breaks my heart. It really, really does. So There you go. That's all I've got to say about this report. Well, I say all I've got to say. I've been recording for 37 minutes. It's about time I stopped saying all I had to say about this. So I hope you've enjoyed my breakdown of it, as bleak as it may have been at times. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. I greatly appreciate it, and make sure to click like if you enjoyed it. Comment down below to help get the video out to more Payday fans. I'll be back very soon with a talk about offline mode. I mean, Armour 2.0 is the next thing. Alma did say that in a tweet, or Payday Twitter man said it in a tweet. Whoever said it, someone said it in a tweet. But point being, that's the next thing. When is it? Your guess is as good as mine. But whenever there's Payday 3 news, I'll let you all know about it. And in between, I'll be doing some other non-Payday stuff. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you all very soon with a new video. Until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.